right, you're live. I'm closing this. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. What's going on? My name is Joe Gierer. This is Real Graps, and it has been a very, very long time since I've sat down and talked wrestling in this studio. It's been about 3 weeks. Not entirely on the fault of my own, but partially. We did our last show on November 4th, I believe it was. Today is the 25th. Yeah. Did the last show on November 4th. Following week was Veterans Day. The studio was closed. I couldn't do the show that week. The following week, I was just bombarded with schoolwork. I was bombarded with projects, tests, whatever it may be. So I didn't have the time to really prepare the show and, come in here fully ready to talk about everything that was going on. So I didn't feel like coming in and, doing like a half job on the show. So I decided to not come in last week and take it off. So finally this week, November 25th, episode 8, finally back. And it's funny because we've missed, I think, maybe like the 2 or 3 most active weeks in the WWE in a while, of course, since I was gone, because John Cena had his final 2 Raw appearances. The last one, which I was at, Madison Square Garden Raw, that was very fun. That show was incredible, but also went to NXT Gold Rush last Tuesday, which we'll talk about in a split second. But since we spoke, a lot of stuff has happened. You've had a women's tag title change. Charlotte and Alexa lost titles to the Kabuki Warriors. John Cena became a Grand Slam champion. He won the Intercontinental Championship from Dominic Mysterio. Oba Femi returned to NXT. JC Jane beat Tatum Paxley after the culling turned on her and became a 2-time NXT Women's Champion. Chelsea Green beat Julia and became a 2-time Women's United States Champion, the first ever. Maxine Dupree beat Becky Lynch on Raw last week to become the Intercontinental Champion while I was gone. And that was because of an AJ Lee return, who's now in the Women's War Games match, which both those teams came to be while we were gone. Lash Legend, one of the last things we talked about on the last show was Lash Legend losing to Kendall Gray for the Evolve Championship. And a lot of people were very upset and they said she deserved more. That Friday, she debuted on NXT with Nia Jax and is now in the Women's War Games match. So she's getting exactly what people wanted her to get, it seems. The Cena tournament that we announced on the last show kicked off officially on last week's Monday Night Raw. I believe it was. I think it kicked off before that, but that tournament is underway and it's almost over. It's almost at the end of it. With that, Gunther returned. He's had 2 matches since. Zack Ryder returned, not Matt Cardona. Zack Ryder returned. And Dolph Ziggler returned, not Nick Nemeth. Dolph Ziggler returned. And on top of that, you had a Roman Reigns return on Monday Night Raw last week, and you had a Brock Lesnar return on Monday Night Raw last week. So apparently, if you want WWE to get booked actively and very, very well, it seems that all you got to do is we got to get rid of the show, because when the show goes, everything seems to happen right after it. So a lot has happened, and we're starting off now in a very different spot than we left off 3 weeks ago. So, and we're leading into Survivor Series. Survivor Series War Games is this Saturday on ESPN in San Diego. It's only a 4-match card as of right now, which is a bit lackluster. Maybe not lackluster, but it's a bit surprising that one of your big 4 shows only has 4 matches booked for it. But that is the Triple H experience, I guess. That's the era that we're living in and experiencing right now. So enough of me rambling on about. We have to get to business because there's a lot of stuff that happened this week, including an extra show last Saturday that I remembered on Saturday was happening, and that was the Triple A show, Triple A Alianza. How about that pronunciation? Anyways, NXT last week, as I mentioned, Gold Rush Night 1. And spoiler alert for people out there who don't already know, Night 1, Night 2 is not a thing. I went there to Gold Rush last week at the theater at Madison Square Garden. They filmed both nights in one. So it's a bit weird talking about NXT and some of this stuff today because obviously I already know what happens on tonight's episode of NXT, Night 2 of Gold Rush, some of the matches. Maybe not all segments. They don't show us all those, but everything that happened in the ring, I'm already aware of and I know the winners of. So it's a bit weird talking about it. But nonetheless, Gold Rush kicked off with Ethan Page and Chelsea Green defending the AAA Mixed Tag Team Championships against Joe Hendry and Thea Hale. Good thing he didn't appear when I said that. But anyways, um, Ethan Page, Chelsea Green, they retained. It was a good match. The match ended with Thea Hale locking in an armbar, but then Joe Hendry, Ethan Page spill over. Chelsea hits the Unprettier, pins Thea Hale. Good match, good way to start the show. And Ethan Page and Chelsea Green work very well together. So I'm glad to see that their reign with those tag team championships is going to continue on forward, because it's one of those things that I think is very entertaining every week on NXT. The Iron Survivor coming up for NXT deadline in, I believe, 3 weeks, or at least it was 3 weeks from this past weekend. I'm not exactly sure. Let me actually look that up. I'd like to be accurate on this show. That PLE will be taking place on December 6th. So it's actually next weekend. Deadline is going to happen next weekend. And that might seem like not enough time because everybody has to qualify for the matchups, but that's not the case anymore, because they announced on NXT last week, Ava did, that John Cena, the greatest of all time, the GOAT, the Intercontinental Champion, right now will be tonight choosing the Iron Survivor participants on the show. Whoever he deems as worthy of being in the contest will be in it. John Cena gets to choose all of them, I believe men's and women's. But spoiler alert, there is a match on NXT tonight that is going to be an Iron Survivor qualifier match. You heard it here first. But John Cena to choose those participants, that will happen next weekend. Deadline's Iron Survivor match is one of the most innovative, most unique, and most fun in the WWE. It's a very fun matchup, and I'm looking very forward to it. Now, speaking of somebody who wants to get into the Iron Survivor match and had an interview about it, was Tavion Heights. Tavion Heights cut an interview just a section over from where I was sitting. It was literally across the section, which was pretty cool to see it up close. But Josh Briggs rained on that parade, gave him a big boot. They brawled through the MSG Theater. It went on for 45 minutes into the show. 45 minutes later, they were still brawling backstage in the theater. So Tavion Heights, Josh Briggs, probably to have a match soon again. I think they already wrestled, but they're probably having a match again soon. And whether or not either one of them is in the Iron Survivor, I guess we'll find out together on NXT Gold Rush Night 2 tonight. Zarya found herself in a little bit of hot water with Sol Ruca, because obviously another thing that was happening while we were gone is Sol Ruca had to vacate. She vacated the North American Championship. Blake Monroe won it. She also vacated the Women's Speed Championship, and they held a tournament to determine a new winner. That will be determined tonight on night 2 of NXT Gold Rush. But Sol Ruca's, I guess, injury, I don't know if it was a work, if it was, I don't know. I don't exactly know. But maybe if it wasn't as serious as they thought, because Sol Ruca was ramping up her rehab, and she got to a point where doctors cleared her. She was able to compete, if she wanted to, of course, against Blake Monroe at Gold Rush for the Women's North American Championship, which she obviously accepted. She's not going to turn down that opportunity, right? And they went out, had the match. And Zarya found herself in hot water because she threw in the towel. And the crowd was not happy. I can tell you that from experience. The crowd was not happy. There was a submission hold locked in on the left foot, left leg of Sol Ruca, which of course was what the injury was on. And Zarya just couldn't bear to see her like that. She didn't want her to get severely hurt. She threw in the towel. And then, of course, that means Blake Monroe retains the championship. We saw a backstage interaction later in the show between the two, where Zarya defended herself against Sol and told her exactly what I just told you. She didn't want to see her pride and ego get in the way of her, having a successful career onward. She didn't want to see her get severely injured because of this, ridiculous belief that she could push through the pain, even though she was obviously injured going into the match. And Sol, of course, was obviously not happy. She said that's what made her the double champion in the first place. So that rift between Zarya and Sol Ruca is not even continuing to break right now. It's just almost fully broken, it seems, because they've been building to this for a while now, but this is more so the boiling point of when everything is going to start going wrong for Zaruka. And it seems like that breakup is imminent, whether it be tonight, whether it be next week, week after, the week after, the week after. I don't know when it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen very soon, though. So Zaruka is probably not lasting very long. On tonight's episode of Gold Rush, Laney Reed, who's a member of Fatal Influence, is going to be facing Kendall Gray for the Women's Evolve Championship. Saw that match last week. Won't say the results, but they're going to have they had a good match. So I'd recommend tuning into it. They have a match for the Women's Evolve Championship tonight on Gold Rush. Now, as I mentioned before in the open, Oba Femi returned at the end of a last man standing match between Trick Williams and Ricky Saints for the NXT Championship, which, first of all, Oba Femi has nothing to do in NXT anymore. And I think we already spoke about this on the show. Oba Femi should be done with WWE NXT, should be pushed up to the main roster. There's nothing that guy has to accomplish. He's had a dominant North American Championship reign, and he lost it. Then he won the Iron Survivor last year when he returned at it. New Year's Evil became the NXT champion and held it all the way through September, October, whatever month it was. I think it was No Mercy in October, maybe, that he lost it. Or September. That would be September, I think. But either way, he had a dominant North American Championship reign. He had a dominant, oh my goodness. He had a dominant NXT Championship reign. What else is there for Oba Femi to do on the NXT roster? He ran through the division. I guess he hasn't beaten Ricky Saints and Ricky beat him, but Oba does not need NXT anymore. He simply just does not need to be on NXT. And I think that's a, belief that a lot of the fan base that watches him understands and believes, is that he should be called up to the main roster. I thought he should have been in the John Cena tournament. As it turns out, he wasn't. There was only one NXT talent in it, which was Javon Evans. 100% deserved. They're big on Javon Evans, and I think they have every right to be. I love Javon Evans. But there should have been more than just him in the John Cena tournament. And I think Oba Femi would have been a perfect guy to put in that tournament, make the semifinals of that tournament, make the finals of that tournament. You could have even had him win the tournament and gave him his big crowning moment by dethroning John Cena for the Intercontinental Championship and giving him a long reign with it like you did Gunther. It appears Gunther is probably going to win that tournament. But anyways, Oba Femi, Ricky Saints, had a promo, had a segment on Gold Rush Night 1 last week. And Oba simply put it. Most important thing he said in that is that he went away, he created a version of himself that you cannot beat. And of course, he told Ricky, your daddy is home. So that rematch is going to happen at Deadline next weekend, December 6th. And during that segment, Trick Williams came out and told Ricky, this ain't over till I say it's over. Because obviously Trick is glued to that championship. He doesn't want to walk away from it. Wants to win it back, become 3-time NXT champion. But Miles Bourne got his receipt, because I don't know if it happened while we were live 2 weeks ago or if it happened afterwards. But either way, Miles Bourne took a chair shot to the back from Trick Williams. And so last week, Miles Bourne got his receipt, and that match was made official for tonight. So Trick Williams versus Miles Bourne will happen on Gold Rush Night 2 tonight on NXT. Leon Slater, Javon Evans challenged Dark State for the NXT Tag Team Championships. And unfortunately, I was really hoping it would be Javon and Leon, but Dark State got the win. Dark State retained the NXT Tag Team Championships on a bit of a miscommunication by Javon and Leon. Javon accidentally hit a splash on Leon trying to break up a pin. Dark State saw it coming, took advantage, pinned Leon. So Dark State are still your NXT Tag Team Champions, and I hope at some point that this Leon and Javon little, buddy-buddy relationship results in them winning those championships, because they would be incredible tag team champions to watch. Charlie Dempsey hasn't been around in a while. He's ghosting Ren, but he actually has been around, I guess, because he invaded TNA with others from NXT. Sort of the, I don't want to say bottom of the barrel, obviously, because they're never are bottom of the barrel, but they're like lesser important NXT talent to the weekly show. And they all ganged up and invaded TNA like TNA did NXT maybe about a month ago or so, whatever it was. But Charlie's ghosting Ren. Ren's been running the show. She's buddy-buddy with Kendall Gray. This is where they announced the Kendall Gray and Laney Reed. No, I don't think it was where they announced the match, but that match is going to happen. Of course, Kendall Gray and Ren have been running around together. But Charlie Dempsey is back, and not on NXT. He hasn't been on NXT, but he was in TNA with NXT, and of course, like I said, invaded them. So I don't know what's going on over there, but we'll have to see how it goes. Now, Danny Sikowski, now known as Skylar Ray, had a name switch. She was the season 2 winner for LFG for the women's division. She was introduced in this women's speed tournament that got made, I think, last week or the week before. Well, obviously last week now was Gold Rush Night 1, so maybe the week before that or the week before that. I think it was the week before Gold Rush that she was introduced. But last week on NXT, they finally introduced Shiloh Hill, who is the LFG Season 2 winner for the men's. He was finally introduced in a video package. They're giving him like that dark guy, conspiracy theorist, dark web persona. Building off his football background, he's a very violent guy. We'll have to see where he goes with that whole thing on NXT, but he was very good on LFG, and I think he has a bright future in the NXT men's division, which, let's be honest here, it could definitely use some spicing up. It could use some help, but more for tonight. The TNA Knockouts Triple Threat will be on for the TNA Knockouts Championship. That'll be between Jordan Grace, Kilani Jordan, and Lei Ying Lee, formerly known as Xia Lee, Xia Lee, I believe, in WWE, if I am remembering correctly. But those three will go at it for the TNA Knockouts Championship tonight. The Women's Speed Championship is on the line between your finalists, Zaria, of course, and Fallon Henley from Fatal Influence. Who'll win that one? Nobody knows. And the Evolve Championship, as I mentioned, the women's will be on the line. That's Lainey Reed against Kendall Gray. And the men's will also be on the line between Jackson Drake of the Vanity Project and Sean Legacy. That's Evolve names. If you're not familiar with them, get familiar because they're both incredible. And they put on a really fun match from what I saw last week. So I'd heavily recommend tuning into both those guys because they're both very good. And I kind of alluded to this before, but the culling turned on Tatum Paxley in night one's main event for the NXT Women's Championship. Izzy Dame gave Tatum the big boot after Spears and Vance stopped her from getting back in the ring. They rolled her back in there, rolling encore 1, 2, 3. JC Jane wins back the NXT Women's Championship to become a 2-time NXT Women's Champion, which was bittersweet because Tatum worked so hard, obviously, to get her chance, as did JC. And JC had a long reign with the title, but Tatum got her 3-week reign. I think it ended at 25 days or something like that. And that was it. Tatum Paxley is no longer your NXT Women's Champion. And what's going to come next for her is obviously a feud against Izzy Dame, against the culling. Will she have help in it? Will Lyra Valkyria appear to help her out in this feud? I don't really know the direction they go with this feud, but I guess we'll just have to sit and wait and see ourselves. I'm sure something about it will be on the show tonight. So I guess we'll see. That wraps up NXT Gold Rush Night 1. And now, following that was SmackDown, of course. SmackDown last Friday. Open with the Vision. And the big thing to come from that segment was Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes' music hit. Cody was nowhere to be found, and it was revealed that Cody was completely battered. He was completely beaten up by Drew McIntyre on his tour bus. He was left in a really bad way, and it almost seemed to a point like he wasn't going to be in the War Games match because he was beat up pretty badly. And of course, being the ever so respectful and loving guy that he is, Paul Heyman told Nick Aldis that out of respect for him, he asked Drew McIntyre to leave the building. And that's just such an honorable and noble act from Paul Heyman. But Drew McIntyre completely battered Cody Rhodes. We didn't really know what War Games was going to look like, I guess, because Cody looked like he wasn't going to make it. He looked like he wasn't going to make it because he was beat up pretty freaking badly. Ilya Dragunov, another U.S. Open challenge on Friday night, answered by J.D. McDonough of the Judgment Day. One incredible wrestler against another incredible wrestler with history because of NXT. I think they were 1-1 going into that match. It was bound to be great. Ilya Dragunov, in my opinion, is the best weekly thing going on SmackDown right now because every match he has, the caliber of wrestler and ring that he's faced, it's been incredible, and that match was no different. JD versus Ilya Dragunov was a wonderful match. They put on a show. And in the end, it was Ilya that retained with a bit of an evil finisher combo, as I called it. It's like Gunther, right? Ilya and Gunther are the same in that they just pile finishers on top of guys until they're done. I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, Ilya popped a Torpedo Moscow out of nowhere, hit a power bomb, and then an H-bomb, all in a span of about 10, 12 seconds. It's just you're not getting out of that. As a wrestler in WWE, you are not kicking out of that. It's like Gunther when Gunther just piles on, power bomb, like some big toss, power bomb, lariat, like it's sleeper hold, whatever it is. Gunther and Ilya are similar in the sense that their finishers do not occur as one. There's never one finisher. It's always like three on top of each other and you're done. If you kick out, you are getting booked like Superman at that point because those guys put some stuff on you that you shouldn't be able to even stand up from. And afterwards, of course, it kept going. Tama Tonga, we've seen face to face with Ilya Dragunov constantly in the backstage. We saw Ilya face to face again with Tommaso Ciampa backstage. So when will Ciampa get his opportunity? When will Tama Tonga get his opportunity? It seems like those two are inevitable opponents that Ilya is going to have to defend against. And will one of them dethrone him? I have no idea. I don't know who's going to dethrone Ilya. It seems like nobody at this point, but maybe one of those two because there's a bit of build behind it. If I had to pick between the two, maybe Tommaso Ciampa because obviously he carried the NXT Men's Championship multiple times and he has experience carrying a title. But I mean, either one of those opponents is formidable. Either one of those opponents is going to have a good match with Ilya Dragunov. Partially because they're both great wrestlers, but Ilya Dragunov at this point seems like he can go out there against a Rock or go out there, not the Rock, but go out against, a Rock or go out against a garbage can or go out against a park bench or something and put on a good match because that guy's unreal and he'd probably leave some bruises on them if he went out there and did that. But we'll see what happens with the U.S. title open challenge. It's every week. He's probably having another one this week. I've managed to avoid some spoiler for this Friday's SmackDown because it was pre-recorded and LA Knight has it. I didn't even mention that. Sheamus is hurt. Sheamus got hurt. Sheamus is no longer able to compete in the John Cena The Last Time Is Now tournament. He was supposed to face LA Knight. LA Knight now was stuck again with a mystery opponent. I won't spoil it on here. I'm sure most people who are watching, if you keep up with wrestling on social media, know who it was. I will not bother saying it on here because that spoils some of the show for people who don't know. But all I'll say is don't get your hopes up for the Jeff Hardy. Don't get your hopes up like you did getting a Dolph Ziggler or getting a Zack Ryder. Don't get your hopes up because it was none of them. But regardless, Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair. While we were gone, Charlotte Flair walked out on the War Games team. The following week on Monday Night Raw, she came back and helped Alexa. But she said she only did it for Alexa. She didn't do it for Rhea. She didn't do it for Io. And a lot of that is because she likes Alexa. Alexa's her friend. She doesn't like the other two, especially Rhea. And that's what was holding back the Women's War Game team from being one cohesive unit. So last week on SmackDown, Rhea and Charlotte Flair were left to chat in private by Io and Alexa. And they got over it. They agreed to trust one another for the War Games match. They got on the same page. And all of a sudden, the Women's War Games team, the face team, of course, is on the same page. But it's still 4-on-4. We had to wait to see who is going to be the fifth member of each team until later that night, which, of course, they were revealed. That happened in the main event of the show. The Usos ran off Braun and Logan during the Carmelo Hayes and Bronson Reed match. Carmelo Hayes and Bronson Reed had a Last Time Is Now tournament match. And of course, with the booking of both Bronson Reed, who beat Roman Reigns, and the booking of Carmelo Hayes, who many think is underbooked, and I can agree with that. He should have probably had something more high profile by now because he's great on the mic. He's great in the ring. He's just a great wrestler overall. But it seemed like Bronson was going to win, especially going into a War Games match. Bronson Reed was going to get his big win, continue his dominance, and carry that into Survivor Series. But Braun Breaker and Logan Paul tried to get involved. The Usos ran them out. And then outside the ring, while Paul Heyman had the ref distracted, Cody Rhodes did a hit and run on Bronson Reed, threw Melo back in the ring, and Melo got the win by countout. So Carmelo Hayes advanced in the Last Time Is Now tournament to face Gunther on Monday Night Raw, which, thank goodness, they gave him some sort of win. It doesn't matter if it was by pinfall, if it was by submission, if it was by DQ, if it was by countout like it was. They finally gave Carmelo Hayes something of higher profile and got him on the same page with, guys like Cody Rhodes. I think he put something out. Carmelo Hayes could be turning face. I think Carmelo Hayes might be a face at this point. And it was all because of his debacle with The Miz. That's an easy way to turn people face. Get them in a little feud or debacle with The Miz, and you will find them getting cheered at some point. So Carmelo Hayes seems to be face now. He got a big win, and he went on to face Gunther on Monday Night Raw last night, which was great. We'll get there. Of course, that's going to close the show. Monday Night Raw, most recent. Well, no, it won't close the show because we have to predict Survivor Series, but it'll be at the end of the show. Cody also cut a very fiery promo on the announce table after, just going at the Vision. Kept it short, kept it sweet, had some good lines. It was a great promo. There was a lot of people online that thought it was his best promo since coming back to WWE, which I don't know. I'd have to go back and watch the others, but it was exactly what it needed to be. He did a good job. Called out Braun Breaker, talked about the history between the Steiners and the Rhodes. He talked about Brock Lesnar losing to him twice. He told Paul Heyman, "You brilled him, I'll beat him." That's a nice line because of what he's done, obviously, with Brock Lesnar, what he's done with Roman Reigns. He's not yet done it with CM Punk, which some people think could be a little bit of a nudge or a push towards a future Cody Rhodes and CM Punk feud. We'll see what happens. But very good work from the WWE champion on Friday night. And clearly he was okay. He was going to continue being in War Games. So that, 45 minutes or whatever it was of speculation went out the window because Cody Rhodes was fine and he was going to continue in the War Games match, which is this Saturday. Chelsea Green wanted to have this grand old celebration for her win. She delayed it after getting scared. She got scared by Jade Cargill. She got scared by Julia and Kiana James. So, of course, she pushed that off to a later date, probably this week, maybe next week. Maybe it'll never happen. I don't know when it's going to happen at this point. In my notes here, I have that Team Sammy cut a hype promo before the Slaughter. So there's going to be a Survivor Series style match between Sami Zayn, the Motor City Machine Guns, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Rey Fenix facing Solo and the MFTs. So it's inevitable, right? And I think it was in the, I don't know, but I think it's inevitable, right? They cut a hype promo for the team before the Slaughter. They're gonna lose. The MFTs are facing the Wyatts. That feud has to get off the ground at some point in a physical way. And that's not going to happen if the MFTs come out and lose the Survivor Series style match to Team Sammy, who's not even a team. The MFTs are family. Sami Zayn's guys are just thrown together because they have beef with the MFTs. That's how this goes. So I think it's inevitable that they cut a hype promo. They tried to get everybody fired up, but I think that it's just inevitable that they're going to lose. They're going to get battered by the MFTs. They're going to lose. That's just how it goes. DIY. Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano. They got back their old themes. They got back their NXT themes, which was fitting because I think I had watched the Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano takeover match, the 2 out of 3 falls in Brooklyn, the night before this came back. So Super Gargano got his theme back. And that helped, along with Candice ripping off the mask from Axiom's face. It was Fraxium versus DIY, of course. And with the power of NXT, Gargano and Ciampa, and Candice, of course, ripping off Axiom's mask, DIY was able to get the win. Picked themselves up a knife win over Fraxium on Friday night. So will that get him in the tag title picture against the Wyatts? Probably not anytime soon because of what's going on with the MFTs, but we'll see. Finn Balor, of course, loses. What else is new? Penta advanced in the last time is now tournament. That was one of the matches that happened where, like, if you're just putting Balor in there again to lose, you could probably put an NXT Town or someone in there because WWE just has very unfavorable booking when it comes to Finn Balor. So, got to feel bad for the guy because he's not winning. He's just not winning. And that's one of the main gripes that people have had with the Triple H booking is that Finn Balor gets nothing. And even when Finn Balor gets something, not NXT, the World Tag Team Championships on Monday Night Raw, he gets them not once, he gets them twice with JD McDonough. Finn Balor and JD McDonough. Think about the caliber of wrestler that is. They defended him twice in 2 reigns. That's incredible. Like they don't book it correctly. So it's just, I don't know. Finn Balor did not need a spot in that tournament, not because of who he is, because Finn Balor is incredible and Finn Balor should get something. But if he's just going in there to lose again to Penta, we've seen that before. That didn't need to happen again. But regardless, Penta advanced, and Penta went on to face Solo on Monday Night Raw, which unfortunately we're going to have to talk about in a matter of moments. But like I mentioned, Sheamus is hurt. Knight has an opponent, mystery opponent that'll be revealed on Friday night. Solo sent a threat to Penta and Team Sammy in a video package. Solo's booking against Dolph Ziggler in that match when he came back. And it could also be because Dolph Ziggler is just incredible in the ring and at selling. He's literally the greatest seller of all time, in my opinion. He's so good at it. If you want to be a professional wrestler and you want to learn how to sell moves, watch Dolph Ziggler as much as possible because that guy is incredible. Makes it look like he killed himself. There was a spot on Monday Night Raw last week where Dolph Ziggler got thrown into the turnbuckle. And if you watch, you know what I'm talking about. The whole arena gasped. My friend and I that were there, we gasped. We thought he was hurt. He threw himself into the turnbuckle, and he was just fine. That's just how he sells. It's just incredible. But Solo was booked perfectly in that match. It was a clean win. And if you book Solo like that going forward, he's an actual threat. And Solo Sikoa can be an actual threat. I like Solo. I think he's gotten significantly better with the character work. I think his work in ring is not as bad as people make it. I feel like he hits his spots. He's smooth. It's just, he does well. I like Solo Sikoa. And if you book him the way that he was booked against Dolph Ziggler, they had a good match. And that's how he needs to be booked going forward because that was great. And then when he does threats against Penta like this, when he does threats against Team Sammy, it's believable. You can take it seriously. Now, I alluded to before, the Women's War Games. In the main event, it was revealed that AJ Lee, if you watched Monday Night Raw, you knew, is the 5th member of Team Face for the Women's War Games match. Rhea had a chat with her on Monday. She was revealed on Friday as the 5th member. But when she was revealed, the rest of her team got beat up from behind. She ran down to help, and what do you know? Becky Lynch, who has been complaining on Twitter hilariously nonstop since losing her title. She's got lawyers on the job. She leveled AJ running to the ring and joined Team Heel. So your Women's War Games field is complete. Both War Games teams are now complete. AJ Lee joins Team Face. Becky Lynch joins Team Heel. I think that's what should have happened. And I'm happy that it did. Now, Triple A Alianza. Again, how about that pronunciation? Was an event that happened on Saturday night. And as it relates to WWE, I'll run through this quickly, obviously. Javon Evans had a match against Laredo Kid. Oh, I'm sorry. Laredo Kid is the champion. He had a match against Octagon Jr. and Axiom. Triple threat match for the #1 contendership to the AAA World Cruiserweight Championship. Javon Evans got a win. So Javon Evans at some point, probably on their December 20th show, I'm not sure, will face Laredo Kid for that championship, which is a good match. I've seen all of them wrestle. They're both phenomenal. Los Psycho Circus had a 4-on-4 match that they won, and it was revealed that the Wyatt Six, through a video promo by Uncle Howdy or Bo Dallas, they will be facing each other on December 20th's edition of AAA, which is now building up to be a pretty big show. Chelsea Green and Ethan Page wrestled Lola Vice and Mr. Iguana for the Mixed Tag Championships. They got their second defense in the week. They won, they retained. And Dr. Wagner, who you saw feud Ethan Page on NXT, came out and tried to attack him, but Ethan Page laid him out, laid waste to him, and moved on with his life. So that feud apparently is still going on in the world of AAA. And in the biggest match of the night, the main event, Vikingo was teaming with Dragon Lee, and Vikingo turned heel on Dragon Lee. It seems, at least. I don't know if there was build to this, but Vikingo and Dragon Lee were meant to team. Dragon Lee went for a tag. Vikingo moved his hand, kicked him in the face, walked away. So I guess Vikingo is heel now. I don't know exactly what drove that because I don't follow the AAA product, weekly or whatever, but Vikingo is now heel, turned on Dragon Lee. They lost to El Grande Americano and Dominic Mysterio, El Sucio de lo Sucio, however he says it, dirtiest of the dirty, Dominic Mysterio. And the Lucha Bros. The Lucha Bros reunited, something that people have been calling for ever since Penta and Rey Fenix were signed to the WWE. Everybody's wanted to see them on the same page. Everybody's wanted to see them together. Everybody's wanted to see them wrestling as a tag team once again. They reunited at the end of AAA, and it was revealed that they would be taking on El Grande Americano and Dominic Mysterio on the 20th of December on the AAA show, which is a big deal, especially in Mexico. That is a huge deal that Penta and Ray Phoenix were back on the same page. But unfortunately, there's a potential wrench in the plans after what happened last night on Monday Night Raw. Quick ad and we'll be back.
Untouchable, unstoppable.
This is WIUR Sports Radio.
Hi, I'm Robbie Basil, president of WIUR Radio, and I hope you're enjoying today's show. Have you ever wanted to call the biggest games, the biggest moments for the biggest names for Iona Athletics? Then the newly founded WIUR Sports Radio is the place to be. Launched in January of 2025, our goal is to try and get broadcasters here at Iona an opportunity to learn, succeed, and get a chance to be on air. From getting to call the big moments at the hack,
Dinkins trying to go to the rack. Denied. Yafet Mundi.
to seeing the crack of the bat at City Park.
The line drive into left field, around third, and it kicks away. The Gales are going to win it in 10.
We make those moments happen on our brand new WIUR Sports Radio platform on Mixer. If you're interested, feel free to reach out to me via email or to the rest of my e-board to join the club. We are WIUR Sports Radio, the new home of Iona Athletics. Now, back to the show on WIUR, Iona University Radio.
All right, everybody. Monday Night Raw last night was another important show. The go-home Monday Night Raw, of course, to Survivor Series. It opened with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns made his grand return last week on Monday Night Raw at Madison Square Garden. I had the pleasure of seeing it in person. And Roman Reigns opened the show. And not long after, he was interrupted by Cody Rhodes. They went back and forth for a little bit. And then CM Punk came out and interrupted the interruption, of course. And Roman, Cody, Punk in the ring at the same time to open the show. That's crazy star power. That is a big open to the show. But the highlight of the segment, in my opinion, was Roman. He had the most important lines. And I have some of them written here. Roman told Cody, of course, because Cody, for some reason, thought to ask Roman, what are you doing in this match? What's in it for you? Cody, you haven't been beefing the vision Roman has for the last however many months. And his family's involved, the Usos. So why, not why is he here? It's why are you here, Cody? Because Roman has a lot more to do with this matchup than you do. But it's pretty much what Roman said. He said, you just got here. I've been doing this. And he said he's here to see his investment through about the Usos because the Usos and he were in the bloodline for a long time. That's why he's here. He's not here for Punk. He's not here for Cody. He made it very known that he doesn't like him. He doesn't like Punk. Doesn't like Cody. Doesn't like Punk. And he's only here for his family. He's here for the Usos. As for Punk, Roman told him that he saved his life and 4 months later he ruined it because obviously they were on the War Games team together. The only difference between this face War Game team this year and last year's is that Sami Zayn's out and Cody's in. It's the same team. And in last year's War Games match, Bronson Reed was about to put Roman Reigns' lights out through a table and Punk pulled him off. And Roman was saved. And Bronson Reed took a tumble through a table. And ultimately, I think that's where he hurt his ankle. And that's what kept him out for so long. He was out until like May or something. But CM Punk said, I saved your life. We should be cool. But then Roman highlighted, like, you ruined it 4 months later with WrestleMania. You took Paul Heyman. And then Paul Heyman turned on us, started the vision, went with Seth Rollins. So you ruined my life. You saved it, you say, but you ruined it 4 months later. So, of course, no love lost between Roman Reigns and CM Punk going into this matchup. And Roman, of course, again said his promise to Punk and Cody. He told them, I don't like you. I don't like you. I'm not here for you guys. You have my word. My promise is that I hate the Vision and Paul Heyman more than I hate you guys, which to me seems pretty reasonable. You have a common enemy. You become friends for a night. You team up to take them down. But clearly they're not friends. And that was made known because Roman told Punk and Cody, I guess, that title would look a whole lot better on my shoulder and said that's for them to figure out who he was talking to when Punk asked him. So finally, and the argument spilled backstage. The Usos tried to get them back on track, but finally, Roman Reigns has addressed the World Championship. Longest reign in modern history, like fourth longest of all time, 1,316 days. Everybody knows Roman Reigns has not addressed the world championship since losing it. He might have said one thing about it since he came back, maybe twice when he first came back. But it's been a year. It's been a year since, and he hasn't addressed it. He's been nowhere close to that championship, which makes no sense considering he had the longest reign in modern history. Where is his rematch? He never got it. It doesn't make sense with the booking. But finally, he addressed the world championship towards Punk and towards Cody. Which one does he want? I don't know. I'd assume he wants Cody's. That's the one that he had. That's the one that he lost. And why would he want Punk's? He called it the Losers Championship, the second title, the Losers Bracket Championship. When Seth Rollins had it, does he just hate CM Punk that much that he wants to take the championship away? I could have seen that the case for Rollins. He doesn't have a championship anymore. Seth does. I don't like you, Seth, so I'll just take your championship. That would have been fine. But obviously, it'd be a little hypocritical of Roman's character to go after the World Heavyweight Championship alone because he called it the second title. And would he want to be second fiddle to Cody Rhodes? No, of course not. But that rematch is coming. Roman Reigns is owed a rematch for the WWE Championship, the undisputed WWE Championship that Cody Rhodes holds. Will it be that or will it be the World Championship? Will it be both? Because you know Roman Reigns, he's got a high ego. He ruled everything forever. He had the Universal Championship and the WWE Championship. Can he perhaps try to unify the titles again and have the World Championship, the World Heavyweight Championship, and the WWE Championship? I don't know. The Tribal Chief does what he wants. So we'll see where that goes. And the men's advantage match was announced in a backstage segment, or a series of them, that this year was actually going to be a tag team match between Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul facing the Usos. Winner gets advantage for their team in War Games, which happened in the main event. Gunther advanced by beating Carmelo Hayes. They had a phenomenal match. Never in a million years did I think that Carmelo Hayes was going to win that. Would I have hated if he won that? No. Would it have hurt the new presentation for Gunther? Yes. Did they make it a close call? Yes. They made it a very close call. Gunther barely beat the count. Melo almost beat another giant by count out to advance in the tournament. That's not what happened. Gunther kind of hit him with the same flurry of finishes that Ilya, I mentioned before. Gunther did it last night. Powerbomb, Melo kicked out, dropped some elbows, sleeper hold into another powerbomb. So Gunther advanced. Gunther's going to win this whole tournament. I don't think anybody would be surprised by that. Now, Dominic Mysterio and John Cena. This saga is continuing onward. They'll be facing in Dom's hometown at Survivor Series, San Diego, for the Intercontinental Championship. John Cena obviously beat Dominic for the championship in his hometown in Boston on Monday Night Raw a couple of weeks back. But John Cena interrupted Dominic's promo last night, even though he had not been announced for Raw, even though he was done with Raw. And of course he still was. It was one of those old school wrestling segments where John Cena, who was actually this guy Psycho from Micro Wrestling, which I found out after, he's a micro wrestler. He and Mini Stu, you know the cameraman, Stu, John Cena's guy, always talking about Stu. We had Mini Stu. We had Midget Cena, Midget Stu. That's how the segment went. They interrupted Dom, and of course, he got blasted. Dominic beat him up. Dominic couldn't even hold the laughter in. He was dying laughing during the entrance. He was dying laughing during the segment. He was laughing while beating him up. Dominic couldn't contain himself. He couldn't stay in character. But the segment, a lot of people hated it. You either hated it or you loved it. I thought it was goofy. I thought it was silly. I mean, you can use that every once in a while. It's just, how else are you going to build this match between Cena and Dominic if Cena's not there? So, I mean, it's a stupid segment, but it was funny. And yeah, I don't know. I thought it was funny, and I thought it was okay to run that one last night. And of course, Rey Mysterio came out late. The deadbeat, the real heel. Rey Mysterio came out late. He let John Cena get beat up by Dominic before coming out. And, you know, Rey Mysterio is just the real heel in this. It's Dominic's always right, but you know. Rey Mysterio had his return singles match. He had his return tag team match last week on Monday Night Raw with Sheamus and Cena. But this week he faced JD McDonagh one-on-one in his first singles match back. and picked up a win. It was a very good match. Those two are incredible. JD McDonough always has good matches. Rey Mysterio always has good matches. So those guys put on a banger, and Rey Mysterio picked up the win. Raquel Rodriguez was promised a title match against Stephanie Vaquer in the future because obviously she brought up that Nikki Bella, and Nikki Bella turned heel. I didn't even mention that. Nikki Bella is now heel and facing Stephanie Vaquer. It's Survivor Series for the championship. But Raquel brought up a good point, and Adam Pearce agreed that her match was interrupted by Nikki. And now Nikki gets a title match, which doesn't make sense. So Raquel on the other side of that match at Survivor Series is promised a title match. And the New Day versus AJ Styles and Dragon Lee, who want to be fighting champions for the Tag Team Championships, was made official for next week's episode of Monday Night Raw, which is nice. That's going to be a good match. For the Women's War Game segment last night, Becky came out, of course, talked about her lawyers, talked about getting her championship back against Maxine Dupree, not by winning it back, but by having the decision overturned from last week's match because AJ Lee was, of course, an illegal manager in that match. That's what she's been saying. But she also gave glaze to her team and was kind of like trying to hype everybody up, but also hyped up herself for making it single-handedly, which I'm sure is going to play a factor in them losing on Saturday, which I'll get to. She was taking credit for making the team, even though she was the last one to join it. But of course, Becky is just this delusional character. And the face team came out. AJ cut a promo. She was excited to unleash the old AJ, as she put it, on Becky at that match. Rhea got the mic, put the mic to the dome. I forget who, maybe Nia Jax, it might have been, but they had a big brawl and the faces stood tall, which usually means bad things for the match that's upcoming, but I think they're still going to win, which we'll get there. Penta, which I talked about before, putting a wrench in plans in AAA, putting a wrench in plans maybe in the John Cena tournament. Penta got injured. He went for a Hurricane Rana off the barricade outside the ring, took a nasty tumble. It seems like he hurt his left shoulder, and they were forced to stop the match. Solo advanced to face Gunther. I'm not sure when, maybe next week on Raw, I would assume. But Solo versus Gunther next week because Penta got injured. I thought for sure Penta was going to win and we'd get Penta versus Gunther, but reports say that Solo was the planned winner anyways. I would be interested to see if it was clean or not, but Solo Sikoa moves on to face Gunther next week on Raw in that tournament. At least I assume. Maxine got her first taste of being champion because Ivy Nile, who hasn't been around in a while, made an appearance and told Maxine she was going to take the title. And Roxanne Perez is finally getting thrown into a title picture. Singles championship picture, might I say. She deserves it 100%. I really like Roxanne. And she also alluded to taking the title off Maxine. So Maxine got her first taste of what it means to be a champion in the WWE. There was a video promo that Stephanie Vaquer sent a message to Nikki Bella before their Survivor Series match. And in the main event, it was advantage heels. There was a big breakdown outside the ring. Logan Paul ended up rolling up Jimmy Uso to win the advantage for the heels. And there was a big brawl afterwards. Brock Lesnar came out towards the end of the show, did his entrance, ate crap on the floor, fell over while he was doing his whole, this thing where he fell down, and it was very funny. But they cut the show off during the brawl, and I assume the faces stood tall because I saw a video afterwards of Roman, Cody, Punk, and Jay. I don't know who it was, but they were pouring prime on Logan's body in the ring. So I guess the faces stood tall. But does that have any effect on the match? I don't know, but we will quickly predict, of course, the Survivor Series card for this Saturday. As I mentioned, it's only 4 announced matches right now. Women's War Game match. Again, as a reminder, you have Becky Lynch, Nia Jax, Lash Legend, Asuka and Kairi Sane taking on AJ Lee, Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, Alexa Bliss, and Charlotte Flair. And I think that it's safe to assume the women's face team of AJ, Rhea, Io, Alexa, and Charlotte will find their way to come out with a champion. What am I even saying? It's been a long show. The face team is going to win. They're going to find a way to come away with a victory. And I'm sure that's not going to sit well for Becky Lynch because she was hyping herself up. And she's probably going to jump. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think that the face team is going to win that match. I think that there's just more reason for the face team to win that match on Saturday. Now, Cena versus Dom, IC title. I unfortunately think that I was in attendance to see John Cena's final win in WWE. That being his tag team win on Monday Night Raw last week at Madison Square Garden. I don't think he's winning again. And for that reason, don't know how that's going to happen. Maybe interference from the Judgment Day. Some people think Ray. I don't know if that's going to happen, but John Cena is probably going to lose the Intercontinental Championship to Dominic. Dominic will become a two-time champion. He'll become a two-time double champ on Saturday in his hometown, get his big win, beat John Cena, which is all he's been talking about for the last 2 weeks since he lost. And I think I was there to see John Cena's last win. And I also think I was there to see John Cena's final loss because I'm probably going to his last match on the 13th of December in DC. Have to drop a bag on it, but I think it'll be worth it. Dominic will become the Intercontinental Champion again. I don't think there's much breakdown to be had here. Stephanie Vaquer will probably beat Nikki Bella for the championship. That's my pick. If the match goes any differently, Triple H, I will be coming for you because that would be very bad booking to have Nikki Bella beat Stephanie Vaquer, especially after she just won the Crown Jewel Championship. And last but not least, men's War Game match. Again, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso against Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, Logan Paul, Drew McIntyre, and Brock Lesnar. And I think the heels are going to come out on top. I think the team, the Vision team, Braun, Bronson, Logan, Drew, Brock, I think they're going to find a way to win. I don't know how it's going to happen again, but I think that they need the win more. The Vision needs the defining win without Seth Rollins to make themselves stand out as a dangerous faction. And I think that this match is the place to do it because you're facing all the main eventers. You're facing the Usos, who main evented WrestleMania as a tag team. You're facing Cody Rhodes, who's the WWE champion. You're facing CM Punk, who's world champion. You're facing Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns, top dog, who Bronson Reed already beat. I think that this is a perfect chance to legitimize the Vision as a faction to be, a force to be reckoned with, not only on Monday Night Raw, but in WWE. And obviously, Brock Lesnar, I don't think he's going to lose. Brock Lesnar just came back. He's probably going to get the win. So, official predictions. Women's War Games, I'm going Team Face. Cena Dom, I'm going Dom. Stephanie versus Nikki, I'm going Stephanie. And in the men's War Games, I'm going Team Heel, Team Vision. Will I be right? We'll figure out next week. Next week is our final week of shows here at WIUR. Don't miss it. Episode 9, Real Graphs, next Tuesday, 1 p.m. And Octagon Antics next week, 5 p.m. Have a big card from this past week and a breakdown for the UFC. Have a big upcoming pay-per-view to break down next week. So tune in. Don't miss it. End of the semester. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.